August 1st, a date that might not mean much to the average American, but in the world of international trade, it could go down in history as the day the United States changed the rules of the game again. Why? Because that's when Donald Trump's long-anticipated reciprocal tariffs officially kick in. Under this new policy, any country that hasn't signed a bilateral trade framework with the U.S. will be subject to unilateral tariffs, set by Washington alone, with no negotiations, no WTO mediation, and no multilateral compromise. It's blunt, it's bold, and according to Trump and his supporters, it's long overdue. This isn't just about goods crossing borders. This is about leverage, economic, political, and strategic. And over the past few weeks, we've watched a geopolitical scramble unfold as countries rush to make deals before the hammer drops. Some, like South Korea and Thailand, chose to play ball. Others, like India, gambled on resistance and may now be facing the consequences. So, in this video, we're going to walk through how Trump's tariff strategy is reshaping alliances across Asia and what it tells us about the future of American power in the world economy. To understand what's happening, we need to step back for a moment and look at the philosophy behind Trump's trade policy. From the very start of his political career, Donald Trump has argued that the U.S. has been taken advantage of by its trading partners, especially through what he calls one-sided deals. He's not entirely wrong. Decades of free trade agreements, coupled with offshoring and global supply chains, have left parts of the American middle class hollowed out. So, Trump's solution? Reciprocity. If you tax American goods at 20%, we'll tax yours at 20% or more. If you block American imports through bureaucratic red tape or non-tariff barriers, we'll hit you back the same way. No exceptions, no special treatment. In theory, it's a trade policy based on fairness. In practice, it's a high-stakes pressure campaign, and not every country has responded the same way. One of the first countries to respond to the new tariff threats was South Korea. Trump gave countries a simple choice: negotiate a bilateral deal or face automatic tariffs. South Korea didn't hesitate. Seoul quickly finalized its own bilateral agreement with Washington, giving the U.S. favorable access to Korean markets while avoiding the tariff storm altogether. Why the quick response? For one, South Korea's economy is heavily export-dependent. But more importantly, Seoul couldn't afford to risk the political fallout with its key military ally, especially with tensions still simmering in the Korean peninsula. This wasn't just about economics. It was about keeping the U.S. close in a region increasingly shaped by China's rise, and it worked. Not only did South Korea dodge the tariffs, but it gained something even more valuable: strategic reassurance. India, on the other hand, tried to play hardball. At first, the Modi government seemed confident it could withstand U.S. pressure. After all, India has long enjoyed a special status with Washington, both as a democratic counterweight to China and as a growing market for American companies. But Trump made it clear: no deal, no exceptions. When India refused to sign a new bilateral trade framework, Trump removed its preferential trade status, slapped tariffs on key Indian exports, and even imposed visa restrictions on Indian tech workers. The response from New Delhi? Public outrage and behind-the-scenes panic. India had bet on the idea that Washington needed it more than the other way around. But Trump flipped that logic on its head. By targeting India, he sent a clear message: even allies have to play by the new rules. You might think small Southeast Asian countries like Thailand and Cambodia wouldn't register on Trump's radar. Think again. Thailand, a key part of many U.S. supply chains, especially in automotive and electronics manufacturing, quickly jumped into negotiations. It offered expanded market access to U.S. firms, cracked down on Chinese rerouting through its ports, and signed a fast-track trade deal. Cambodia, with its garment industry heavily reliant on American consumers, was even quicker to comply. The government made significant labor reforms, seen by some as symbolic gestures meant to win over U.S. favor. In both cases, the Trump administration proved that even the smallest countries weren't exempt. And once again, the message was the same: deal or suffer. One of the more surprising moves in this trade saga came from Pakistan. For years, Pakistan has leaned heavily toward China for infrastructure investments and loans, especially through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. But as Trump's trade policy gained traction, Islamabad began quietly pivoting back toward Washington. In exchange for favorable trade terms and debt relief, Pakistan agreed to increase transparency on Chinese loans, open up to more American imports, and even enhance intelligence sharing. It wasn't flashy, but it marked a subtle rebalancing in South Asia, one that could have ripple effects for years to come. Then there's Taiwan, the most geopolitically sensitive player in this entire lineup. Facing constant pressure from Beijing, Taiwan saw Trump's tariffs as more than just an economic measure. They were a signal of loyalty. So the Taiwanese government didn't just sign a bilateral trade framework. They went further, offering to invest billions in U.S. chip manufacturing, expand arms purchases, and align more closely with U.S. foreign policy. The gamble paid off. Taiwan became one of the only Asian economies to actually increase exports to the U.S. during the early rounds of Trump's trade war, and Washington responded with unprecedented support, both economically and diplomatically. As expected, the mainstream media didn't take kindly to Trump's bare-knuckle trade tactics. Politico ran a headline mocking his phone call diplomacy, suggesting that Trump was just winning it, calling foreign leaders out of the blue and demanding deals like a mob boss collecting debts. But was it really so unstrategic? In many cases, those late-night calls worked. Countries did come to the table. Deals were made, and America, for once, dictated the terms. Whether you see it as bold or reckless, there's no denying that Trump's approach was different and effective. Now let's talk results. According to U.S. Commerce Department data, the first half of 2025 has seen a 12% reduction in the U.S. trade deficit with countries that signed bilateral deals under Trump's framework. Foreign direct investment into American manufacturing has also spiked, led by South Korean, Taiwanese, and even German companies looking to avoid tariffs. Critics argue that American consumers are paying more. That's true, in part, but the flip side is that domestic production is rebounding, and job growth in industrial states like Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania has outpaced national averages. In other words, Trump's tariff war hurt in the short term, but it may be helping in the long run. So, did Trump win the trade war? The answer depends on how you define victory. If you're looking for a return to the globalist status quo, probably not. But if the goal was to shake up the system, force foreign governments to take U.S. interests seriously, and reassert American leverage in the global economy, then yes, Trump didn't just rewrite the trade playbook, he flipped the table entirely. The real question now is whether future presidents will keep playing by these new rules or try to fold the hand before the game's even begun. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Is Trump's tariff strategy genius or a ticking time bomb for global trade?